The Hot Wheels Railroad lineup has been a great way for my son and I to enjoy trains alongside our favorite die-cast cars. We've really enjoyed using these, but I read your comments on our other videos that we've made about these, and you've pointed out that these are HO scale. And I thought, nah, there's no way these HO trains are the same size as these, but I didn't realize we were talking about the track. So I thought maybe let's check and see if there's truth to this, and if there is, would this have been a better way to introduce my young son to model trains? First things first, let's confirm how these things fit, because as you're already seeing, the Hot Wheels trains do fit on HO scale track. And obviously the reverse is true, to a point. So while the HO scales do work on Hot Wheels track, there's two things we gotta keep in mind. The first is kinda obvious, but I have to say it. Hot Wheels railroad tracks are plastic, so HO trains won't, work. They draw electricity for the motor in these things to work from the track, and the plastic isn't exactly a good conductor for electricity. The example you'll see a lot in this video is a broken HO scale train that a friend of ours gave us. Luckily, the wheels move up front, and that's all my son is really interested in. He loves watching the pistons and rods move around on steam engines. The other bit is track radius and clearance, and trackside clearance for that matter. Yes, the Union Pacific gondola will roll around on these Hot Wheels rails. Because the Hot Wheels rolling stock is shorter, they make use of the tighter turns that the Hot Wheels trains came with. These scale ones look a little funny on them as a result. They can also bonk into stuff from the Hot Wheels Railroad playsets because they were designed with the toys in mind, not the clearance of HO scale cars and trains. The flanges on this locomotive's wheels keep it from working around tighter turns, whereas the wheels on this Hot Wheels steam engine have the wheels closer together, so it can navigate those tight turns with ease. You'll also notice the flanges are thicker on the Hot Wheels one, so it won't probably clear HO scale switches. I don't have any here to test this theory, but I gotta imagine they would derail. So sure, Hot Wheels railroad engines and rolling stock can work on HO track to a point, and the reverse is true. Though I feel like HO scale trains have more limitations on Hot Wheels railroad stuff. None of the couplers interchange with each other, and even if you could, the size difference with HO scale trains and rolling stock would look a little silly being used directly together anyways. These cars and trains are much smaller than the scale stuff. So this is definitely more of a case of interchangeability of these on each other's tracks, and that's really it. That does open up some options for those of you who want to have fun with Hot Wheels trains but don't want to deal with this finicky track that they come with. They're kind of brittle, and the connections can break pretty easily. Plus, getting secondhand track or getting the playsets can be expensive, but you could just find some engines and rolling stock by themselves pretty easily. You could just pick up some HO track, in this case we're using an oval of secondhand Atlas track, and run them with these. The less aggressive angle of the track means you can roll these more easily, lessening the chance of a derailment, which the original sets were criticized for anyways. Plus, you could run longer trains with them because of that wider diameter that'll keep the weight of the extra cars from pulling themselves off in tighter turns. That happens a lot to us because my son really likes hooking up every car we have to one train, and this solves that issue. However, figuring all this stuff out made me come to this realization about the application of kids and trains, because I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a dad enjoying trains with my son. And I originally had thought about doing HO scale trains with him before we changed over to our O-gauge trains that occupy most of the basement. Knowing that Hot Wheels trains work on HO track, we could have gotten started with this method and expanded an HO scale empire, maybe with better results even. HO stands for half O, so we could have quite literally fit double the amount of trains on this custom-built table wrapping around our sectional couch for our O-gauge trains. The trains would have taken up less space with storage, been cheaper to purchase, especially secondhand. The list of benefits seems pretty high on the surface. So this discovery accidentally posed the question to me: do I regret going with O-gauge? And the answer is no. Technically, none of these model trains are appropriate or age appropriate for younger kids if you go by what it says on the box. But my son has been around model trains pretty much since he could stand. But I do think it would have taken him longer to develop the motor skills and care to work with a smaller, more fragile train like HO. Our introduction to model trains was this Dino Roars diesel set from Lionel, and honestly, it's a fantastic size. The tough and rugged nature of O-gauge trains, especially semi-scale and more toy-like trains, means he can enjoy these and I don't have to worry as much about things breaking. We would have taken more time to transition from Hot Wheels trains to HO scale trains, and the smaller parts in general would have made things a little bit trickier to deal with. Maybe in some alternate universe, we would have started with Hot Wheels trains and transitioned to model trains later on than we did with our O-gauge trains. But I think either route is good if approached properly. Why focus so much on using these toys as a transition to model trains? It's less of, I want my kid to be what I'm into kind of thing, and more of the fact that I feel like model railroading can really teach kids a lot. It's a super hobby, where they're doing more than just running trains in a circle. There's so many things they can dig into with model railroading, from the electronics and mechanisms that make them work, to building scenery and other things to support it, to learning the history behind these trains. There's even more reasons you could really break down, but the point is, whether it's HO scale, O-gauge, G-scale, getting started with Playmobil and transitioning to an outdoor garden railroad, oh wait, I've done that before too. I'm straying a bit from the original path of this video, but the point is, look at what these connections can lead to. 1 minute they're playing with Hot Wheels trains and cars in the living room, a few years later they're learning about circuits and woodworking and travel. It's a gateway to learning so many things, and at the end of the day, the more ways we can help our kids to have hands-on experiences to learn real-world things that will stay with them the rest of their lives, the more of an impact we'll have on them. And when you spend that kind of time with your child to do all of this, that's a bond that'll last so much longer than these toys. You just want to toot the whistle. So if you've stayed on with me this far, you probably enjoyed this. I hope you like it. Leave us a comment, subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of our videos. Speaking of those, there's a bunch of them, so check them out in the meantime. Thank you so much for all the support, and we'll see you on the next one.